Hello, and welcome to River Network's self-paced learning series focused on key characteristics of a healthy organization. This is the third of 4 episodes in this series, meant for new or young groups and organizations, or those organizations looking for a reset or refresh. In this episode, we're going to talk about defining roles in successful recruitment. Whether a group or organization is just starting out, or if they're years into their work, taking time to define leadership, programmatic, and volunteer roles in the organization can help determine workloads, set expectations, and aid in role recruitment. We will cover the basics of determining what your organization needs, how to craft a position description that meets those needs, and how to use that position description to recruit folks to support your mission. For those who aren't familiar with River Network, we work to grow and strengthen a national network of water, justice, and river advocates. We convene and build our network with training, resources, peer groups, technical support, funding support, and in-person gatherings like our national conference, River Rally. River Network envisions a powerful and inclusive movement that ensures abundant clean water for all people and nature to thrive. We believe that joy and hope for our planet flows through our rivers. Our work includes 3 focus areas: climate-resilient communities, healthy and resilient rivers, and clean, safe, affordable drinking water. We work to build strong organizations and leaders across all of these focus areas, which is what brings us here today to talk about the key characteristics of a healthy organization. At River Network, we know that we do our best work in partnership with others. This video training series is a collaboration with the Hudson River Watershed Alliance, an organization in New York State that is uniting and empowering communities to protect their shared waters. Funding for this series comes in part from the New York State Environmental Protection Fund through the Hudson River Estuary Program. If you watched the first 2 episodes in this series, you recall that we're working off of the Organizational Health Checklist, which includes 5 characteristics all organizations should work toward establishing. The first item on the checklist was the mission statement, which we covered in episode 1. In the second episode, we talked about leadership models and decision-making. Today, we're focusing on role definition. Positioned in the middle of the organizational pyramid, clear roles support leadership and make planning and budgeting much easier. Remember, you can refer to the checklist for an overview of this topic. You might think that the roles in your organization are obvious. The treasurer is in charge of the money, the secretary is in charge of records, the event committee members organize events, right? Beyond those general responsibilities, though, what else do the people involved in your group or organization do? How much are we relying on assumptions to guide the duties different people take on? Defining the roles within an organization is a worthwhile way to clarify who does what. We can move to decision and action faster when we already know who is responsible for moving things forward. Additionally, when new people are involved in your work and taking on tasks, a well-defined role with a written position description gives direction to the newbies. In general, well-defined roles set good expectations, prevent burnout, proactively distribute the workload, and set helpful boundaries. Ideally, they align people, skills, and deliverables. Finally, a well-written position description is an effective tool for recruiting new people to the group or organization. We'll talk in depth about this in today's episode. So who needs role definition anyway? The truth is, everyone can benefit, especially in a young organization where the bulk of the work is taken on primarily by volunteers or founding members. Defining leadership roles with a written position description is a great place to start. What do those in charge primarily do? Think first about the president or chairperson, secretary, treasurer, and committee leaders if you have any. What duties do they have, and what skills do they use to accomplish them? It can be helpful to write up a description for general members or members at large as well. Recurring volunteer positions or committee positions are important to call out here, as they interface with the organization often and carry out work on behalf of the organization or group. Of course, if you end up having paid staff positions, those roles should be adequately well defined as well. This might seem like a long list and a lot of descriptions to write, but rest assured, once you write one, the rest come along very easily. A position description for a volunteer or leadership role is very similar to a real job description. You're going to give the role a title, include the time that's anticipated to complete that role per week or per month, the general duties and tasks completed by the person in that role, and helpful or required skills, as well as preferred skills if that's relevant. Consider including who the position works with or reports to, and any benefits of the role. You can think creatively about benefits with a volunteer role. Will the person in that role have access to training or skill building as a result of their involvement? Will they receive access to certain events, be featured in a newsletter, maybe receive a certificate or letter for their contributions? How can you frame the position as mutually beneficial to both your group and the individual who's interested? We've included a template position description for you to use. The first page is a fillable template, and the second page is an example of a volunteer committee position. Before you set out to use the template, we have a few things for you to consider. As you go about defining roles and recruiting to fill them, you need to start by understanding what you actually need. The skills, relationships, or areas of expertise you'd like to include in your organization might be obvious, but completing an inventory exercise can help you further understand what you already have available to you versus what you need to recruit for. We've included an inventory template for your use with this episode. It includes sections for skills, connections, and demographics, with samples of each listed below. Some of the samples are broadly applicable to any group or organization, such as fundraising or community engagement. However, you should feel welcome to adapt this tool to your specific mission. What skills and connections might help you meet your goals? We include a demographic section because it can be helpful for tracking the diversity of your board, group, or team. If it's important for your organization to represent a certain community or relate to specific experiences, you may consider using this section to ensure you're being responsive to those needs. A good way to frame your inventory, and in general your needs, is to use time, treasure, and talent. This is a fairly common phrase in nonprofit organizations and community-led groups, as it summarizes the general needs of all groups. You want to balance contributions of all three. If you have a team with lots of time and talent, but no treasure, you may find yourself with lots of passion and no resources to fully realize it. If you have a group with lots of treasure and talent, but no time, actions will likely stagnate despite resources and expertise. A well-balanced group or organization has people involved that represent all three needs. In each box on this slide, you can see examples of people that might meet each need. Based on your inventory, you'll want to determine what skills are needed and add them to the appropriate position descriptions. If they don't match a specific one, add them to a desired skills list on a general member description, or consider creating a new description altogether if there is a well-matched set of skills that are needed. Being clear about skills is important. To be successful in a role, is a skill required or preferred? List skills accordingly and intentionally in a position description. You can also include preferred criteria as needed to meet your goals. There are some examples on the slide of how to include preferred criteria without being exclusionary. After determining what you need, you'll want to think about how you'll screen people to match your needs. We've suggested some best practices, but you know what's best for your group or organization. A few things we'd recommend include creating some kind of interest form or application for folks to indicate why they're interested and what they want to contribute. This can be fairly simple and doesn't need to be framed in a way that makes a position seem competitive or burdensome. A lot of organizations create a short digital survey and use that to collect information from interested people. It's helpful to have a version of the survey that's printable as well to be more accessible. Your interest form should always be open. You may be recruiting for specific positions at different times, but leaving it open all of the time means you're likely to have options as soon as a position is vacant or needed. Folks can express interest at any time and be contacted when the need arises. Having the interest form live on your website 24/7 is a great way to invite interest before you even know you need it. Linking the position descriptions on the very same webpage makes it easy for interested folks to evaluate a position or your organization's needs and express their interest all in one place. The interest form or application should have a specific contact for questions or concerns. As much as possible, make this a person's contact information, not an info@ email. Folks are more likely to reach out or express their interest if they feel like a real specific person is on the receiving end. Include an anticipated timeline for response or acknowledgement, if that's possible. And again, craft questions on the form around time, treasure, and talent, so you can be sure that you're balancing your group or organization. Once your screening tool is created, you need to get the word out. This is where those position descriptions really come in handy. You'll be sharing them to communicate to people what you need, what the expectations are, and the benefits of being involved in your work. When recruiting, we recommend balancing your digital outreach and your direct outreach. Social media and email newsletters are great places to start posting your open positions, but leaning into some old school methods will help you reach higher likelihood commitments. Make direct asks to people already engaged in your work. Community members who show up consistently to events, a volunteer who always engages in the same program, someone who consistently donates money to your organization online. These people have already expressed interest in your work, so asking them to get more involved is a fairly safe bet. Lean on community partners as well. Get the word out to them about recruiting and let them share with their networks, volunteers, or supporters. Neighborhood groups, houses of worship, program partners, school districts, and others can be excellent recruiting help. Again, sharing the position descriptions out with them to share with those they know are interested. And of course, use your own events. If you interface with people through volunteer events, education events, advocacy events, or others, bring your recruitment information with you and be prepared to talk about the opportunities you have. Again, if someone is already showing up for an event with you, they're likely to invest in a higher level of engagement. So we've determined needs, created a screening tool, and gotten the word out. We now have a list of people interested in supporting the organization. While it might seem silly when we're the ones who need help, we should still be discerning in who we invite into the work we do. Just because someone is interested doesn't mean they have the time, treasure, or talent that we're looking for. Additionally, they may not align with the values or the culture of your group or organization. You'll want to have a system for evaluating interested people. Decide ahead of time who is involved in the evaluation process and have a clear timeline in mind so the process moves along. Waiting too long can result in candidates losing interest or changing priorities, just like people applying for a job. Consider creating a rubric if you anticipate a lot of interest in a position, or creating a review guide so evaluators have consistent criteria. Check candidates against the inventory you did in step 1. If you were to add that person to the inventory, which gaps would be filled? When you've determined who you'd like to invite to support your work, you'll want to make a meaningful invitation. This communication should be warm, welcoming, and inclusive. Before assuming they are still able and interested, confirm with them. Is this still something they want to do? And does that commitment still align with their capacity? Invite them to ask questions and clarify responsibilities before they commit. Once they've confirmed interest, sending an official letter or invitation can be a special touch. It formalizes the role and elevates the commitment. The letter should be enthusiastic and full of gratitude. Personalize the letter to reflect the things they were most excited about contributing when they expressed interest. As possible, set up a virtual or in-person meet and greet with your new recruit. This is helpful one-on-one and with a group or organizational leader, as well as in a group with those that they'll interface with most. Set aside intentional time to introduce them, welcome them, and learn about them. Guide the new person through some sort of orientation or onboarding process to help them learn about the organization, the people involved, and the systems that you use to do your work. This is particularly important for board and committee positions of any kind. At River Network, we often hear that when folks join a board or committee, they spend 3 to 6 months just getting comfortable and listening in before they feel confident participating. Consider pairing them up with a seasoned buddy to ease the introduction and support their learning curve. Most importantly, after inviting someone to join your work and bringing them into your group or organization, check in with them often. It is overwhelming to be involved in a new thing, even if it was something they sought out themselves. Adults of all skill levels, ages, and identities experience anxiety, imposter syndrome, and self doubt. Make sure the people involved in your work feel confident and cared for as they support your mission. To recap this episode, we first determined why it's important to define roles and which roles benefit from definition. As a reminder, it's basically all of them. Second, we discussed how to create a position description and shared a template and example for your own use. We also talked about using position descriptions to recruit new people and reviewed the 5 steps of effective recruitment. First, completing an inventory, which we've also included a template for. 2, developing a screening tool for interested people. 3, getting the word out about what you need. 4, deciding on candidates or folks who are interested to fill those roles. And 5, making a meaningful invitation to new people joining your work. We hope that you found this episode useful. This is the third of 4 episodes in this series, covering the items on the organizational health checklist. The next and last episode will cover basic budgeting and work planning. You can reference the checklist at any time for an overview on this episode's topic, available for download from Hudson River Watershed Alliance or River Network. Thanks for joining us in episode 3 of the Organizational Health video series. For more resources to support your group or organization, visit River Network's website at rivernetwork.org. We have additional videos, downloadable resources, and tools for your use.